Hi there. Welcome to the Biz Communication Show. I'm your host, Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy. The Biz Communication Show, in our 8 years of hosting outstanding business professionals who will bring tips and strategies that will help us boost our business. Today, coming to us from the Atlanta metropolitan area, Keith Nabb. He's the principal of Affordable Medicare Solutions. In 1995, Keith opened his health insurance agency. In 2013, he transformed his agency as Affordable Medicare Solutions, specializing in Medicare planning and individual health insurance. His staff of 10 has over 100 years of medical insurance experience and represents every major medical plan available. A major part of this transformation was positioning the agency as a central senior resource to provide help to families in the aging process. With the changes in Medicare and healthcare due to the Affordable Care Act, Keith has been exceptionally active in educating the public on their new healthcare and Medicare options. As the preeminent Medicare educator in Georgia, Keith has personally taught, I get this, he has personally taught over 1,500 classes on these subjects to professionals and consumers at conventions, senior citizens centers, hospitals, churches, and schools. Affordable Medicare Solutions has a comprehensive YouTube learning channel covering all things Medicare. Affordable Medicare Solutions with Keith Nabb is the most awarded Medicare agency in Georgia, receiving awards for sales, persistency, leadership, and more over the past 30 years. From 2020 to 2023, Keith Nabb was awarded the top 3 Medicare awards from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield of Georgia, the largest healthcare insurance in Georgia. So let's welcome Keith Nabb. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Bill. How are you doing today?
I'm just doing fine having you join us because I know, having dealt with you for several years, that you are a wonderful resource and a great educator for those of us who really can't understand all the Medicare jargon, and there is plenty of that. One of the common ties that you and I have is the University of Georgia. I taught speech communication there. I noticed, of course, that you graduated from UGA with a combined major of business and communications. Many times we look back on our education, higher education, and we think there were many courses that just don't relate to us later on. But there are often 1 or 2 courses that truly help us not only at the time to understand a topic better, but to apply it very profitably in our business life. As you look back on your University of Georgia curriculum, what were the courses that were most beneficial to you, and why were they, Keith?
Well, definitely I enjoyed small group communications and interpersonal communications. The interpersonal communications is very important for helping people that are sitting across the table from you, people that you meet, and to be able to communicate effectively in a very short time frame for them to understand what you do and how you can help them with their situations and their problems in their life. Small group is, how can you engage a small group of people and keep their attention and tell a story or to make a presentation? Those are vital in what I do on a daily basis. I have a team of employees, but I also go out and teach groups of professionals or consumers about what I do. So those classes have been invaluable to me over the years. But the number one class that I really appreciated was Greek philosophy on communication, for understanding the different ways of appealing through talks, through ethics, emotion, or logic. And you really have to attune your communication to your audience by one of those philosophies.
One comment that you immediately bring to mind for me is that my graduate degrees, Ohio University, they bore the title Interpersonal Communication, which is what you studied at UGA. And the discipline that I was studying at the time, interpersonal communication. Keith, it was rather new at Ohio University. And so the person who was preparing the graduation program for, I remember my master's graduation, it listed me as graduating with a master's degree in impersonal communication. So whenever anybody mentions interpersonal communication, I think back to that. Fortunately, by the time of my Ph.D., they had straightened that out. I think the points you made were so vital, because in talking with groups, and I mentioned in your introduction that you have presented clarifying presentations to, at last count, about 1,500 audiences. Tell us how you approach that. Is it all lecture? Is it lecture and then question and answer? Is it questions they submit ahead of time? Do you look for a lot of interaction? Talk to us about those very helpful and very vital sessions that you direct.
Well, I'll tell you, the first 100 or so were very painful, and there were people asleep in the audience. But
I understand. My first 100 were also.
The practice makes perfect, and you get to the point, especially with my topic, which I have guardrails, and we're gonna, we have a certain range of information we're going to teach. It's not going to be some wide-ranging conversation. It's a very focused conversation, and I can, after time, anticipate and see the questions that are coming from the audience, where they're getting stumped, on which topics they need more help. And I know when to ask them, hey, if you're having trouble with this topic, let's discuss it a little bit further. And by being really not just presenting, but being very attentive to the personal cues of the audience, allows me to be able to say, all right, this person is struggling, or this person wants to raise their hand, but they're too scared to. There's those type of things that you watch in the audience. And I think that takes time to go beyond being a presenter and being an engager, where you start to actually work the audience, if you will.
When I was teaching speech communication, of course, one of the first steps that I would teach students would be audience analysis, where you find out as much about your audience as you could ahead of time. But I love your slant there, Keith, that also we can analyze our audience as we are presenting. For example, do they look confused?
Are they asleep?
Yes. And do they sometimes look bored? Do we need to have more interaction? So the most ineffective presentations are those where a presenter gets up and, more or less like a mannequin with a mouth, just gives some information, not knowing how it was received, how it was interpreted. So if you had to tell us a percentage, for example, in those presentations which you've held for a great variety of groups, what percentage of the presentation is monologue and what percentage is dialogue, where you're open to and in fact encouraging the audience to participate? What would those percentages be?
It's probably 90% monologue and 10% engagement, dialogue. You have to stay within a time frame. People's attention spans are only so long. Much like a TV show, you can't without commercials. A TV show is about 40 minutes. If you add commercials, it becomes an hour. So 40 minutes is about the attention span of people, and you have to have breaks in there to allow them to kind of decompress a little bit and re-engage. So it's going to be mostly monologue, 90%.
I think definitely the attention span of audiences has changed because we could look back. I'm sure you took some history courses, and you can look back to when America's great orators, it was almost expected that they would speak an hour or they would speak 2 hours, and audiences now are wanting, I don't know if I'd call it a quick fix, but they certainly want information quickly. And on social media, if, for example, with this video that you and I are producing, and also it's an audio, if we don't have the audience's attention in the first 2 to 3 minutes, the audience will not stay with us. It's we're very easily tempted to switch. If we don't like a song that's on YouTube, we can switch to others. So I think it's very good to be aware of the fact that attention spans are short. On those 1,500 or so presentations, are you basically on the same topic every time? Are you presenting different areas, or does it depend on the group?
Yeah, we have different topics that we speak on: Medicare fraud, Medicare in general, like a soup to nuts Medicare. We have managing your Medicare. We have different topics, probably about 5 or 6 different ones that we teach on. It depends on the population we're teaching to. If we're teaching to financial planning for professionals, we have a different language and a different presentation than to consumers or to nurses or to social workers. We look at those populations differently. I want to go back to, it's kind of funny, I have ADHD. And so you're talking about the attention span of the audiences. And I completely have felt that my entire life, of being able to say, all right, can I stay focused on this subject for, 30 minutes or an hour? But I'll tell you, I was the kid at church when my preacher did his long stuff. I remember the back of the pew was just below my neck. And when I would fall asleep, my head would hit the back of the pew and it would echo through the entire church. And my dad would also nod off and during the services too, but he didn't hit his head on the pew. His head was higher than mine. But I would tell you what, I think audiences today need a dopamine release every now and then. You've got to have some humor in there. You've got to have something to take it off from the seriousness or the dryness of the subject. You've got to give them a little bit of a dopamine release a couple of times through to say, this is crazy, or this is funny, or this is whatever. You got to throw something in there, and that gives them a little bit of, wake up, a little bit of dopamine release, make them a little bit happier, to get them re-engaged. And so that's part of the process when you're teaching something. Like, my financial planning friends are like, why would anybody want to sit down and learn about Medicare, Keith? That's boring. And I'm like, I know, but they really, the thirst for the knowledge is out there. You just got to make it engaging.
Well, any topic can be boring, depending on the presenter. I've seen it happen, and I've probably made it happen. But at the same time, any topic, no matter how complex, can even become understandable and even enjoyable with the right humor, the right illustrations, the right stories, the right examples. And I would imagine in explaining Medicare to your many audiences, you use stories and you use examples.
Yes, that's right. And also I poke fun. Like, there's a government rule, a compliance rule that says we're not allowed to criticize a government agency. So I will say something in a little bit sarcastic way, and then end that with saying, but I'm not allowed to criticize the government. And so there's just different ways of just engaging people to say, there's some silliness involved here. Let's break it down and don't overthink this. Let's, even though there's a lot of technicalities, it's easier than you think it is. Let's break it down.
Keith, I've noticed in your bio that you contribute considerable time and your expertise as a volunteer. So we're going to talk about that in just a couple of seconds. We'll be right back.
Do you wish you felt confident about giving speeches? Do you want to deal with difficult people constructively? And what about becoming more persuasive in sales? Then keep listening now to Dr. Bill Lampton. He spent 20 years in management, so he knows the communication skills you need for success. I urge you to call the Biz Communication Guy today for a no-cost but very valuable 30-minute discussion about your communication challenges. Call now, 678-316-4300. Again, that's 678-316-4300.
You're with us on the Biz Communication Show. I'm Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy. Your host, our guest is Keith Nabb of Affordable Medicare Solutions. And just before that short break, Keith, I mentioned that I have great admiration for top professionals like you who do more than just live a good life. You also volunteer your services and your expertise to your community. What are some of the causes over the years and even currently that you have supported?
On a business side, I've been very active in creating mastermind groups or networking groups to help business professionals interact with each other. And I've been a leader and a founder in many of those efforts. But a lot of my life has been centered around outside of work, doing community social work. And the very first start on that was working with the Gwinnett Neighborhood Leadership Institute, which is no longer around, but it was around for about 25 years. And it was to teach grassroots people that might be working in their HOA, or maybe they're doing some local community volunteering, how to be a better leader. And I was both a graduate and a leader and a director of that group. And then I was recruited to the Council on Aging office in Gwinnett County. They recruited me to become the leader to help senior citizens connect to county services and to all the different nonprofits in the counties that would serve low income and also vulnerable populations. Well, after I finished all that, that was really great. And I did that for about 7 years. Then I got recruited to run the Arts Association in Suwanee, Georgia. And it was faltering. The leader was a very typical situation where the leader was an artist, but had no real formal training on how to run an organization. So the founder needed to be replaced with a person that had the formal training. And that was me. And I ran that for about a year or two. And then they also then had me join the Public Arts Council, which was assigned by the city council to pick the artwork and other artistic direction for our local city, Suwanee, Georgia. Now I've moved, after 30 years, I moved out of Suwanee, Georgia, up here to Houston, Georgia. And I am starting to become involved up here with the senior centers and the local city efforts to improve my local area that we have now moved up to, which I call my final resting place. I'm not going anywhere else. This is it.
Well, you're in a great place. I have visited there, and I can remember I moved into this area in 1988, Keith. I moved here from Central Georgia. Mm-hmm. And I remember so well driving into the Brazelton and Houston area in 1988. There wasn't much that was developed there. And Henry Brazelton, who was the mayor of the town, became a great friend and associate. And I remember so well, one day he took me out and he pointed to some great pastures, some large acreage out there. And he said, Bill, before long, we're going to have some championship golf courses here. And did his prophecy evermore come true? And I know there was a time not too long ago when I didn't go down to that area for maybe 5 years. And then I had a reason to visit the Brazelton branch of the Northeast Georgia Medical Center. And I almost thought I'd gotten lost because there was so much development there. Well, getting back to your volunteer work, I have great admiration for that. And it's so fascinating to me that many of the people who help build a community and help sustain it and help it advance, many of them are doing it without instant recognition. Sometimes I will read an obituary of someone that I thought I knew rather well here locally. Mm-hmm. And then it will mention a dozen organizations that they had been volunteering in, or they had chaired, or they had founded. And so I have, my hat is off to you and to all business people and professional leaders who don't just build their own company, but they look out for the welfare of everybody in the community. My hat's off to you for that. Also would like to ask you, we're talking about business communication, and one of the key factors in expanding our business through a keen communication method, one of the key factors is not just what we say about ourselves, but it's even more importantly, what other people say about us. And I know you have relied in the growth of your business on referrals. And it's so wonderful when somebody else says, Keith Nabb will do a great job for you, instead of Keith Nabb saying, I can do a great job for you. My question is, and especially, I guess, for those of us on LinkedIn, how do we go about getting referrals? They don't just happen. And people don't just say, wake up one morning and say, you know, that Keith's a good professional, I'll give him. So how do you get, and how do you encourage us to get referrals?
Well, there's a great book by Bill Cates. The book is called Don't Keep Me a Secret. And he has a follow-up book called Beyond Referrals. So I'm going to steal some of his stuff here. One of my favorite books that I've read in the last year or two. But getting referrals, just like communication, is psychology based. So much of this is psychology, and our degrees aren't in psychology, but we deal with psychology on a daily basis. And Bill Cates talks about this, that 20% of people will always refer other friends to you. 20% of people will never refer somebody to you. That leaves 60% in the middle that you have to psychologically condition, the thing called neuroplasticity, where you give them permission, you teach them in very subtle ways that they're supposed to send their friends to you. For example, saying, don't keep me a secret. Please refer your friends to me. Or, hey, if you have any friends that need my services, that's the best way for me to build my business. You have to give those psychological cues to them so that they realize, oh, that's how I pay Keith back. Oh, that's how I'm a good person. Oh, that's how I'm supposed to enjoy our relationship together, is to show Keith that I appreciate him by sending him my friends. So that's 60% of people. So you've now quadrupled from the 20% that will always send you referrals to now hopefully 80%. And that's where it really explodes. And people have to get that behavior embedded in their emails, in their language, in their interactions with people, saying, hey, you know, I know you're way too young for Medicare, but hey, if you've got a neighbor or your mom or dad that need help, please send them my way. there's different ways to interact. And this is so important. It's psychological conditioning. And I have to teach my employees this constantly, that they need to end their statements, their sales calls, their enrollment calls, their interactions, their service calls with that type of behavior.
Wow, that's very, very helpful. The point is, we absolutely cannot just be too reserved and too shy. If we have served somebody well as a professional and they're our client, our customer, they will be happy, but they have to be asked. And that Bill Cates you referred to, is that Cates, Cates?
That's correct.
All right. Well, I encourage our viewers and our listeners to look up those books, and that's something I'm going to do as well. We have to be assertive. We have to be progressive in a highly professional way. But if our service has been top flight for people, they will be glad to endorse us, won't they?
Well, yes. And the second step to that is now today, over these last 10 years, is getting reviews. And maybe it's written reviews, but if you can get video testimonials, that's even more powerful. But at least get the written Google and Facebook reviews. That is a lasting testament that stays online, that people say, hey, and it ranks you. I got 4.9 stars with 800 reviews. That is something that's really important, and I'll tell you why. But first, the video testimonials are the most powerful. If you can get people to do that, and we just did a compilation video of about 10 different video testimonials that I gathered during COVID, and we put them all together in about a 20-second clip. So it's like 1 or 2 seconds per person. We love Keith Nabb. We love Affordable Medicare Solutions, etc. What has happened? I just got one of my employees told me, this is 10 days ago. He calls me and he goes, Keith, I had the weirdest phone call. And I'm like, what happened? And he goes, this guy called me and says, I want to buy from you. And I said, well, that's great. And he goes, how did you find us? Why did you decide to buy from us? And he says, I use 4 different AI, Chat GPT, Grok, Claude. I said, I use 4 different ones. And all of them told me you guys were the ones to use for the Medicare.
Wow.
And well, here's the deal. That was really surprising to me because I've not invested any money in trying to influence AI, and you can't really. It went back to my 10 years of testimonials and reviews and all sorts of interactions and my blog posts and other stuff. And it collected all of that up, and it made the recommendation based upon my history.
I would certainly like to underscore one strategy that you mentioned, and that is a video testimonial. At one time, we had only written testimonials for people, and then we could do audio. And now video is so simple. All you have to do is your phone. I produce 2 to 3 YouTube shorts per week, and they're all on my phone, and there's nothing complicated about it. We're in the video world, and also we're in the AI world, as you mentioned. But a video, and I love that sequence that you talked about. The people don't need to say very much. They don't need to talk very long. If they endorse you visually and vocally, that's a powerful illustration.
Well, Keith, hold on, I want to stop you because we're at this cusp of the moment where you don't know if it's a fake video or a real video. So I've tried it both. I've tried both. I'll tell you, real video, grainy or not perfect, or somebody's in their car, is going to be more effective than AI. And we actually did this. We did an experiment where we took our old Google reviews and we just animated them. We put it into AI and said, hey, take this little paragraph this person said and just put a lady on a couch and say it as though she was live. And so it looks great, but I think people are now catching on. That's probably AI. And actually a video testimonial of somebody that's in a much more unprofessional, they're at a coffee shop or something, and people are walking by or something, I think is going to be more concrete going forward.
Wonderful tip there. And I know that AI is a marvelous benefit. I use it plenty, but I still, as you, I want to see reality. Yep. And I like your illustration of, hey, shoot the video in a coffee shop, and then they'll know it's not AI. And it doesn't have to be a perfect setting or perfect wording. And even 2 minutes of a shirt sleeve video will work really well. Keith, this has been marvelous to have you as our guest on the Biz Communication Show. And I know that there are viewers and listeners who want your contact information. So please share that with us.
Well, thank you very much. My name is unusual. My name is spelled Nabb. There's only one Keith Nabb in America that takes care of Medicare. And my agency is Affordable Medicare Solutions. But the web address is www.amsplans.com. So Affordable Medicare Solutions Plans, amsplans.com. And our phone number is 770-945-5261. And we're here Monday through Friday. We also do nights and weekends if people need special help. Every now and then we will go to visit a senior at their home or a disabled person. So we will try to accommodate everybody at their convenience. Just give us a call and we'll work it out for you.
I encourage our viewers and listeners to get in touch with Keith and his highly qualified staff. And I'm one of those people who have given Keith a referral very gladly and very enthusiastically, because I too have benefited, as hundreds have, from the quality of his work. And now that Keith has given his contact information, I want to give mine. And so my YouTube channel is Bill Lampton, Ph.D., and I've been recording instructional videos there since 2007. Now, don't look at any of those earlier ones, please. But in the last 8 years, I've hosted weekly the Biz Communication Show. And as you can hear and see today, it's not just what I know, it's mainly what the expert guest knows. So I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then my website, since my tagline is Biz Communication Guy, my website is bizcommunicationguy.com. And while you're there, you can subscribe to my YouTube. You can subscribe to my podcast. I will welcome phone numbers without obligation on an initial exploratory call where you talk about your communication problems and challenges, and we can discuss potential solutions to them and see whether or not I'm the person who can assist you with that, or whether I will refer you to someone else. And then I certainly want to mention the co-producer of the Biz Communication Show, Mike Stewart, based in Nashville. Mike has been a valuable marketing and technology guide for me since 1997. That's a long time. He's Nashville based now, used to be here with me in Gainesville, Georgia, and he will be a great help to you. So I now want to ask Keith, with all the information that you've given us, is there any kernel of a minute or minute and a half that you would like to leave with us?
Well, as far as my business goes, there is a lot of problems in the Medicare world. And there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of Joe Namath on TV. There's a lot of robocalling and all of those things. We have to position our agency as a safe place, because seniors are bombarded and they're sick and tired of it. The government's not doing enough or cannot do enough to help them with this problem. And so once people engage with us, they know they can turn off any phone calls from any other Medicare source and just call us and say, hey, Keith, is this true? Tell me what's going on. How do I review my plan? I'm having this problem. We become their safe place. And it's becoming so obvious today that seniors are just completely fatigued, psychologically abused by this illegal marketing that's going on. And so we've tried to really become that central safe place for them.
I would add to that, Keith, that very few of us who are laymen, we're not trained in what you do. Every year we get these packages in the mail with a big booklet that we're supposed to read through, understand, and then make choices. We're not qualified to do that. And I know the first visit I had with you, that was the first great benefit, was saying, Keith, help me cut through this. I just can't understand this. So thank you for that. And the scams that we get, we have to be very careful about them. And only when you get to something like your health care, and especially your Medicare, only go to someone highly qualified. And Keith Nabb is that person. Thank you, Keith, for being with us today.
My pleasure. I've really enjoyed our talk.
We did too. We benefited from it. I'm Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy, and I invite you to be with us next week for another rendition of the Biz Communication Show, when I host another highly qualified guest to help us with our business communication skills. Be with us then, please.